Hello and welcome to Social Media for Humans, the podcast that empowers you to do social differently. Your host, Alexis Bushnell, and her guests discuss their experience of social media as business owners, users, and ultimately humans, with insights and advice to help you find an effective and ethical strategy that works for you. Grab yourself a drink and join the conversation.
Hello. I'm here with wonderful Nia. Please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Hi, I'm Nia, and I'm a freelance illustrator at the moment. And I've taken your class, Instagram for Humans, and I've been doing Instagram.
You have really been doing Instagram. Actually, I have to say, like, when you first sort of found my stuff, and like you really went for it. You weren't one of the people who, because some people, they do like the free challenge, or they join the membership and whatever, and then they're like, I'm gonna do a little bit at a time, and like that's great, that's fine, you can do that. But you were just like, I am gonna throw everything at it. I'm gonna put the time in, I'm gonna put the work in, I'm gonna do it. So how did you first start Instagram? Let's start there.
Okay. Well, I actually created it like years ago, like maybe like 5 years ago, just because my coworkers told me to get on it. And I posted like 2 things and then I never touched it again. But then during the pandemic, I recently got on it again because I decided to try freelancing. I quit my desk job and I just wanted to do freelance, and I figured, Instagram was kind of the most visual social media thing I could think of. So that's when I started that. And then that's when I came across your stuff and I was like, oh, I really want to know how to like really get my stuff out there. So I had all the time because I had quit my job. So that's kind of why I was able to like throw everything at it. So
yeah. So how did you find it? Did you find it really sort of natural and intuitive when you first started, or has it been a steep learning curve?
I think in the beginning it was kind of easy because the stuff to set up, like, you're like bio, okay, cool. And posting kind of on a regular schedule, all right. It was a little hard to like create art that frequently. Like I'm on a break right now because I didn't know how to keep that up. But I think it was more the reaching out to people that was hardest. The social aspect of it, like the kind of visual part of it was fine, or like presenting to people was fine, but then the actual social aspect was kind of the hardest for me, I think.
I think a lot of people find that, actually, as well. Certainly a lot of the people that I work with tend to find that. And I do wonder how much of it is because a lot of the sort of talk around social media is about what you should be posting and how your bio needs to look and which hashtags you need to use. And there's nobody who's sort of being like, you might want to actually go and talk to people on social media. It does seem to be a common problem. People are just like, I have no idea where to start.
Yeah, that's definitely
you said that you were on a break at the minute because you were struggling to sort of keep up creating art on a regular basis to share. How often were you posting?
I was posting like 3 times a week when I was like in the full swing of it, and I had done that for like a couple months, and then I fell off it. And then like a whole bunch of stuff, because like the whole freelance thing, I think I found out that it wasn't kind of my thing to do full time because it was so many things at the same time. Like, you have to be your own agent, you have to be your own like financial person, you have to reach out to people, you have to do your own work and like creative direction, and then like the actual drawing part. So it was a lot. And even though I had all this free time during the pandemic, I kind of got like a little creatively burnt out just because it was so much to do at the same time, and I was so like overwhelmed. And like you said, like in the beginning, I was like the person who was like, oh shit, I don't know like what to do, like where to start, what to do, like what the next step is, and all that stuff. So it was very confusing, very overwhelming at first.
Do you feel there is like a pressure then to only post your artwork?
Like as opposed to like just
as opposed to selfies or
okay.
something, if you've gone out and about, photos of that, or just anything that isn't something you've created, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Especially for like an artist, like you kind of want to post things that you create, and unless you're like fully like famous already, then you could post like like promotions and stuff like that. But I feel like I wasn't up to that point yet. So yeah, I don't know. I was never really a big like selfie person to begin with, so it wasn't like a natural thing for me to do. I don't even have like my personal Instagram to like post just personal stuff. So it's literally just my art Instagram. So I would feel kind of weird just posting like non-creative stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just because it depends. It definitely depends on like your personality and also what people have come to expect from your account. I think especially if you start off only posting your art, I think it can be difficult to then shift to posting other stuff because there is that expectation from your audience. But I do know that there are some not quote famous people who do find it really helpful to post other stuff because it allows them to be present even when they're not being creative. And I think it also gives people that connection to the artist, which again, it depends on your audience, but that can be really helpful because you can then start to build a following of people who are not just invested in your specific art style, but in just you generally. And they sort of connect with you as a person, which then sort of leads into the more natural social connections from that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yes, if anybody's listening and thinking, oh my god, I have an art account, help, why? Oh, I'm gonna burn out. Try posting other stuff. It's fine. Okay, breathe.
I think I saved a lot of my personal stuff for the stories. So that I was just kind of be like, oh, here's a little peek of me, and then it'll be away. I was like, don't look at me too much. But yeah, I saved it for the stories. But I think posting that kind of stuff would probably help a lot because it's not as like time intensive and stuff,
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, Nolene, who I had on the podcast talking about self-care, actually, she barely posts on her Instagram feed at all. I think for an entire year, she only posted to stories because I went to look at, I did speak to her about it, but I went to look at her profile because I wanted to share a post to be like, she's going to be on the podcast. And the last post was from like last year. And I was like, wow, you are managing to sustain an Instagram presence purely with stories. Wow. That is impressive.
Yeah,
so it is absolutely doable if you don't want to post it on your feed and you want to keep the feed as just a portfolio type thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Does she like play around with her highlights then, or does it just like, is it just kind of just stories?
I think she just does stories. I think she's just on stories really regularly.
Okay.
And so people, I think her audience sort of come to expect to that's how they connect with her. That's where they see her stuff, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I personally really hope it doesn't go that way. But it's doable. So coming back then to the sort of social side of it.
Right.
What was it specifically that you struggled with?
I guess when people say like to engage with like your followers and your commenters, I didn't know what to say aside from like thank you, because like since I'm posting art, they're like, oh, I like this, I like that, and then so I'll just be like, oh, thank you, and then like not know where to go from there, I guess. And then yeah, I guess I would comment on other people's stuff, but I wouldn't get a lot of like back and forth all the time, and I guess it's just kind of the like rapport that I had trouble with. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, no, you're right. And I think commenting on your own stuff, replying to it, can be difficult because sometimes there is nothing you can say apart from but I think sometimes when it comes to art, depending on what the comment is, you can maybe ask what specifically they liked about it, or did you see this other piece that I did? Did you also like that because it's a similar style and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think when you're talking about like outreach engagement, I find it really telling about the comment, because where you leave comments and then who actually replies to them, for me, that tells me a lot about the account. Because for me, community and building those social interactions is so important. Like, that is a core part of Instagram. And so I find it really interesting that some people just do not respond to comments at all. And it's actually why I tend to find on much bigger accounts, it happens a lot. And some of it is just that there are so many comments, they can't get to them all. Right. But it is why I also tend to suggest that people reply to comments on other people's posts. So if you find an account that is relevant to you and your audience that is not replying to their comments, go and reply to their comments. Go and do it for them. And you can discover people that way, and then they can discover you and be like, wow, this is a sociable, awesome person. I'm gonna go follow them. So yeah, I think that's a way to do it. So if you can remember sort of, well, I commented on this post and they haven't replied, it is worth, I think, hopping back and being like, do they ever reply? Do I maybe want to reply to some of their other comments and start building connections that way?
That's a good point. I think that kind of also like leans into like how I am in real life too, because I like don't like to bother people. I'm like, oh, am I bothering them by talking to them? Or like, oh, am I gonna like step on their toes by like inserting myself in there? And like I was never like one to kind of go out there and like really meet people and like talk to everybody. So yeah, I guess that's just kind of how I am naturally. But like you said, the social part of social media is super important. So like I feel like even though you want to like what's it called, like show your personality and like be authentic, you still have to do some kind of little changes here and there to actually get the full benefit of it.
Yeah. I think it's because like I am not naturally a social person. I am an introvert all the way. So I find it helpful to essentially set a time that I'm going to be social during this period of time. And then outside of that, I can be an antisocial person, and that's fine. Because I do think it can be easy to sort of fall into, I'm trying to be social on social media and I know this is important, so I am just going to push myself to engage all the time. And then that is another thing that can burn you out, especially if you're an introvert. You're pushing yourself all the time. And like you don't need to. Like, you can be social on social media and only be there for between X time and X time per day, or every other day, or however you want to do it. Right. Because you do. I think you need to honor like what your own natural tendency is. But yeah, you do kind of have to, especially earlier on, you have to be, the outreach engagement is what makes the difference. Because nobody's going to really find you if you are not actively like, hey, I'm here, you need to come and look at my stuff because it's cool. I don't recommend you leave those comments, but you get
on other people's posts, just be like, I'm awesome, look at me.
Yeah, please don't do that. But yeah, you need to be sort of out there, and it is it can be difficult because it is like networking. It is basically networking, and networking is one of those words that kind of strikes terror into people, including myself. So But it's finding a way to sort of do it that actually works for you and that you can maintain without, you know, burning yourself out and feeling exhausted all the time. And like, oh my God, do I have to speak to somebody else?
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to do right now, is like find that balance. And also like I think I work better with like a structure. So I've been like applying to like 9-to-5 jobs and stuff like that. But I still want to do like freelance on the side, just maybe not like full time and at like full blast like I was doing it before. But yeah, I will get into the socials eventually again, because I've been taking a very long break from Instagram. But just to, you know, get my bearings straight, get the mental health in order and all that stuff. And yeah, it's just like, I guess everybody's coming out of the pandemic now, so we're slowly getting back to like normal, so to say. And I'm just trying to figure out what that normal is going to look like for me and my business and all that stuff. And yeah, I also need insurance because, you know, well, I'm in America, so, you know.
Oh, yes.
There's that.
Yes, but, the land that cannot afford to be ill.
That's a different story.
Yeah. No, I think structure is really helpful. And you can have it with social media. And this is another thing that, like, if you do set sort of specific times that you're going to be available, or you want to post X times a week, or to create your own schedule and hold yourself accountable to that, rather than to whichever expert is telling you that you need to be doing this, that, and the other 7 days a week or whatever. That can help. To actually just set your own schedule and be like, right, this is what I'm going to do. That's it. That's all I have to do. I'm going to do it during these hours. This is what I'm actually going to achieve. And the other thing I think is like not setting, because I know some people set targets when they're doing engagement, and it does work for some people. That's fine, but they setting targets of like how many comments to leave, and like. That's great. I can understand that works for some people. But also, if you then find that you've spent half an hour trying to find somewhere to leave an appropriate comment, that's possibly not the best use of your time.
Right.
So I tend to suggest it's better to set yourself a time limit rather than a sort of must hit X amount of comments.
Right.
To say like, I'm going to spend 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. And do it that way, so that you aren't spending just endless time. And I also think it helps to stop the sort of, I'm just gonna scroll and scroll and scroll. Because if you're just like, oh, I've got to do X amount of comments, there's nothing stopping that scroll. Whereas if you're like, in 15 minutes, I need to be doing something else, you're like, oh God, right, gotta find the content, leave the comments. Yeah.
That's true.
So you were looking for a full-time job now to do sort of freelance on the side.
Right.
How do you, because I assume you're gonna then sort of get back into social media and trying to do the freelancing at the same time. How do you envision your sort of time there? Because I'm going to be honest, right? For me, the idea of having like a full-time job and a sort of freelance gig, that like, no. So I am fascinated.
Well, what I find is that like, if I'm just doing things for myself, I'm like terrible at time management. And like during the pandemic, everything was my time. So I would just like do kind of what I wanted and was like really bad at doing things that I needed to do as opposed to like things that I wanted to do. So I think when there's something like I have to do like a job, then it kind of forces me to time manage and like put things into certain areas and like do things within certain time limits and stuff like that. So that's how I figure it's gonna go. As long as I don't get a job that, you know, fully burns me out like I did last time. And you know, that it's a little hard, but you know, I'm gonna try it. But yeah, I think if you find a good place with a good work environment that really cares about their employees, then they'll, you know, make sure that you're happy enough that you don't leave work just wanting to pass out on the couch or something like that. So, and then, you know, there's always the weekends and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that having the structure will get me into like more of a rhythm again, because I haven't also been drawing as much as I want to, even though I haven't been on socials. Like, I haven't really been spending that time doing like everything productive. So I think I'm just trying to like force myself into doing productive things and getting into the swing of things again.
Yeah. I think that is interesting, because I do think people's brains definitely work differently, and like my brain is definitely very much like, I need to be in control of everything. That includes my entire schedule, and how everything gets done. But yeah, I think it's good that you sort of recognize that in yourself, and you're like, no, like, if I want to be able to do the sort of fun freelance stuff, I need the structure of a quote proper job, so that I can then use my free time to actually do that stuff that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I figure my freelance wasn't going so quickly anyways that I needed like so much time to do it. And if it does pick up, then maybe I'll just try to do like less hours at the real job, so to say.
Yeah.
Or like go for something part-time if it really picks up. But I'm not sure how long it'll take to get there, because yeah, I mean, it's hard for a lot of people to gain traction, and it's just like you gotta hit that one thing that blows you up, right? That's how I hear it goes for a lot of people. Like, they do one thing and they're like, oh, that worked. Or like they'll find their core audience in like some really niche spot, and then that's how they kind of like get the ball rolling and stuff like that.
Yeah. It is. I do say, like, social media is a slow burn. It is very, very rare, especially now, that you are just going to wake up one day and you'll be like, oh my God, something blew up and now I'm famous, you know. Maybe back in the day when Instagram first started, yeah, maybe. Now, not so much. But I mean, like, I kind of think that's a good thing. Obviously, if you're trying to get a business off the ground, it can be more difficult. But if you're, especially for creators, I think it is much better, because the emotional and sort of psychological toll of suddenly being famous and having the entire world sort of look at you, and well, there is nothing that can prepare you for that anyway. But I think at least if it builds gradually, you start to get a flavor of like what's going to happen, and things you can put in place and that kind of thing to maybe limit the distress, shall we say. But yeah, I mean, it is difficult now to sort of really take off. But I do think that if you choose a niche, and I know a lot of people are not a big fan of niching down, but it doesn't have to be an obvious niche. Like, it doesn't have to be something about your own business or what you do. It can be like that you are an artist who also is into, why am I going to say Pokemon? I don't know. I'm going to say Pokemon. So,
I mean, there's a whole resurgence of the Pokemon card craze, so maybe that's it.
But like, if that's something that you're passionate about, you can like get involved in the Pokemon community on social media. Why did I pick Pokemon? Who knows? But you can get involved in that community on social media. And then that can blow up your art stuff or your creative stuff, because you're connecting with people who are, again, they're more invested in you as a person. It's not just about your art. It's not just your art that you're sort of selling to them in that way. They've got to know you, and now they want to support you. And so even if they're not specifically interested in it, they are going to tell other people about you because they like you as a person.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be like, if you're niching down, it really doesn't have to be like, well, I do this specific kind of art, or I offer this specific type of service. It can be, I really like Pokemon, apparently. So yeah, I do think niching down can be really, really helpful. And I've noticed, especially in the sort of sustainable and ethical business areas, that the businesses who have started essentially niching down into ethical, sustainable business areas have seen massive growth because the community rallies behind them. And that's like, it really is a case of like, find your people, which is obviously easier said than done, because you got to figure out who your people are first, and not everybody knows that. But it is definitely the way to do it, I think. And I think the other thing is, people have this vision of like who their people are on, and they're not on X platform. Whichever platform they're on, and I'm like, wow, yes they are. Like, yes, like, I'm sorry, I'm here to tell you, yes they are. You might not have seen them yet, but yes they are. There is like a whole world of people on these different platforms. You've just got to find them. And sometimes it is a case of just like, oh, I found this one hashtag, and then suddenly you're like, this is where they are. This is where
You found the little pocket that they're in.
yeah. It's incredible to me because it's so varied, and it really is like the whole worlds within worlds, and it always makes me laugh, because if I'm watching news or something and they're talking about X famous social media star or YouTuber or whatever, and I'm like, I have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
I'm just not in those communities, so they're not famous.
A lot too.
And then it happens in reverse, because I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited that this person is tweeted me or something, and my best friends are like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, but they've got X thousand followers, and they're like, yeah, no, I don't. No, sorry.
Yeah, I have a friend who's really into like the like handwriting planner community stuff, and like I was surprised at how many like really big planner people there are that do a lot of stuff and sell a lot of things. And like she was specifically really into washi tape for a while, and she was like so excited that this one like washi tape maker followed her, and like none of our other friends knew who she was, but like my friend was so excited. She was like, this goddess has descended upon me and graced me with her presence.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
We don't know who that is, but we're happy for you.
Yeah, the planner and journaling community especially on Instagram is just huge. Genuinely enormous. Yeah, it really is. And it does prove the point that like, just because you don't see that stuff doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things I've been doing with like my social media break is like a little bit of soul searching. Not just for my social media like identity, but like since I'm looking for a full-time job, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do something that's like fully artistic and creative, because then I might be like artistically burnt out to do freelance on the side. So I was thinking like, what other things do I like and what other things can I do? And that's kind of been something hard that I've been going through like a quarter life crisis trying to figure out. And like, I like these things and I can do these things, but I'm mostly doing like, I went to school for art. I've been like pursuing art, and like, that's kind of like not my thing, but like the thing I've been going for. But now I have to try a different thing. And like, it's a weird thing to try to switch like career paths, or like just different, like, I guess, I don't know what to call it, like different lanes. I'll just go with that.
Yeah.
And I've come up with a couple things, but they haven't really led anywhere just yet. I'm like, I love animals. I think one of the reasons I thought the marketing stuff was interesting was because I really liked psychology. I took like a lot of psychology classes in college. They were really fun. I just always found them interesting. Obviously I like the art stuff. And then, but the thing is, like, I'm thinking, like, I don't really have a lot of experience with animals because my mom growing up hated animals. I just really liked them, but like could never have a dog or a cat. So we got like tiny things like fish and like hamsters, but and psychology, I did take some classes, but it's not like I'm qualified to do anything with it, So I'm like, what do I do with this? And that's just kind of what I've been trying to figure out.
Yeah. No, I think it is helpful, and I have to say I had like I wouldn't call it a quarter life crisis, but I did have like a what am I gonna do with my life moment. And I went through. I was like, do I want to be a tarot reader? Do I want to be a dog groomer? That was on my list.
Nice.
There was like various different things. And then I was just like, well, I'm good at social media. I'll do that for a bit and see what happens. And here we are. So
is that really how you started out?
That is genuinely how I started out.
That's great.
So, yeah, you could just like throw a dart at a dartboard of ideas and we'll give that a go.
Like this thing that where like I'm like, if I choose something, I have to like really focus on it and really go for it. I don't really think of like just casually trying things, even though it's like, it's not like a bad thing to do because you're just trying things out to see what suits you. But like, I have this like weird thing in my brain where I'm like, you either go for it or you don't. And like, yeah, I guess it's just something I'm working on. But speaking of niches and stuff, you reminded me that one of the things I really like is comics. And there was this there's this app called Webtoons where you could read like the web comic creator stuff. And one place I found a lot of other people to talk to was the Lore Olympus fandom. And yeah, so I posted like a fan art of the main characters, and then a lot of people commented, and I got like, I think the most engagement on that one post than I did like on anything else. And so I made more Lore Olympus stuff, and I made some like Lore Olympus friends, and like started talking to them about like the story and stuff like that. And that's like one way I really found like a little community also. But at around the time where I started posting like maybe my third Lore Olympus fan art, I think the Instagram thingy had changed, and so it wasn't being like seen as much, and I wasn't really finding these people as much as I was before. So it was a little hard after that, and I wasn't sure like where to go with that. Like, should I find another niche, or is it going to be hard to like find them now that the whole algorithm's changed, or is it going to be like, are they hiding somewhere?
I mean, the recent, for listeners, is the 24th of June. Yes, we're recording this. But the algorithm at the minute seems to be, like hashtag wise, you will really only see results from hashtags if you're like actively engaging on those hashtags. So if you're using hashtags, you also need to be scrolling those hashtags and engaging in them yourself. That seems to be, at the moment, who knows how long for, but that at the moment seems to be the solution. Which I do like as an idea. I wish that they had announced it instead of me having to run tests and being like, this works? Is that, what is it? But here we are. I like it as an idea because I do think it pushes people to actually engage and not just create more of their own stuff, to actually go and talk to other people.
That's true.
But yeah, it would have been nice for them to say like, we are prioritizing engagement. You may want to do some outreach engagement. That might be something you want to move to the top of your list. Like it would be nice to have a little heads up so that a load of creators didn't just suddenly go, nobody likes my stuff anymore. Where did everybody go?
Yeah.
Just a suggestion, Instagram gods. But yeah, you make a good point about sort of niching down, because fandoms are a really great way. If you are into something, and there is like a fandom behind it, go and get involved with that. You know, do it on your business work account. It's fine. Your business work account does not have to be prim and proper and booted and what have you. You can talk about your weird fandom stuff. I actually posted a post about I watched the Queen's Gambit. Oh, that was a mistake. Yeah, now I am deep in the chess community now. So I have I've got posts going up that are like, here's how social media is like chess. Who knew? But it is. So really, it doesn't matter what you enjoy and what you're sort of involved in. Like, you can make it a part of your branding if you like. You know, it doesn't have to be super relevant to what you do. You know, you can bring other facets of yourself in as well.
Right. I never really thought about that, because I did a lot of fan art, because it's just kind of, it lends itself to the art stuff. So like, you draw things that you like that are already visual things, or like already kind of set things. And so I never really thought about like bringing the other things into it. Like, I wouldn't really be sure how to like incorporate like psychology into my work, other than the marketing part, which is kind of invisible in a way. Or like, yeah, I guess I'm like thinking in my head now, like, how would I incorporate that? Like, or how would I like do all these other things? And you're just hearing my brain fry, because I'm not coming up with anything on the spot. So,
that's okay. Okay. I wonder if I mean, it depends if you do want to go down the sort of the creative route, but you could do some kind of creative work that is sort of turning psychological concepts or tips, ideas, that kind of thing, into artwork that expresses it effectively. Because I do think that can be really difficult, sort of, because a lot of the sort of therapists, psychologists that are on social media, like, they need the visual something to get across what they're trying to say. And I think a lot of social media starts to strip away the nuance.
Right.
And it is really difficult to get across the whole important concept. So there you go. Maybe that's a job. I don't know what job that would be. Nuanced psychological artist.
That's interesting, though.
Just create the job title for yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I do think it and going back to what you were saying as well before about like having to feeling like you've got to make a firm decision. Like, if I make this decision, that's it. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Like, that is a terrifying decision to make. And I think, and it's relevant with social media as well, because like, if you create some content for social media and it's trash and it doesn't do well, it's fine, you know, like, so don't use it again. So do something else. It's okay. And I do think the same is true for jobs and work and stuff. And obviously some people spend a lot more time training to find out that they hate a job than others, but but I do think there needs to be more sort of flexibility in just work generally, and like like, who knows what they want to do as a, you know, teenager. Like, one of my friends in high school, she knew that she wanted to do like financial stuff. Why? Don't ask me. Even in high school, and she just knew. And I was like, I have no idea. And I was still like, I was 25 going, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. So I do think it should be like hashtag normalize trying jobs on. But yeah, because like the pressure as well. I think the pressure of saying like this, this has to be perfect. I have to make the absolute right decision. It just makes it even more difficult to make the right quotes decision.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like partially like a societal thing. Like, people like you hear all these things about like, oh, they became a billionaire at like 26, or like they got viral, excuse me, viral at like 15, and like now they have like $1 million and all that stuff. But another thing that like comes into play for me personally is I have anxiety, and like psychologically diagnosed generalized anxiety, and something I heard is that like we tend to think in black and white a little more. And even though I know like intellectually, like, it's not so bad to take some risks and like, you got to try things out. It just feels a lot more like the stakes are a lot higher. And then it's really hard to get out of that thinking sometimes, even though like, I know this isn't that bad, but it feels that bad. And it's really hard to change the feeling rather than the thought,
Yeah. No, yes, I can definitely relate. Yes. Yeah, and I think like I have got better. I will say I have got better at taking risks and being less terrified. But it has definitely been a very sort of long and ongoing journey to like, I'm going to do this thing that I'm not 100% sure whether it's going to work, but I'm going to do it anyway because that's what people do. But I do think, and as much as I always hated the advice, like, you just have to keep doing it and then it gets easier. It's true. I hate that I am now that person who's like, you're just going to keep doing it and it'll get easier. But like, it's true. And it does terrify me less now to try stuff. And I think some of it is just having tried stuff and it work is reassuring. And having tried stuff and it fail and the world didn't end. Like it didn't destroy my business. It didn't destroy my reputation. The world kept turning. Everything was really fine. I just sort of tweaked it and tried again, And I like with my sort of anxiety, a lot of it is that, everything, there is no less scary outcome. Either it's going to ruin everything or it's going to work. They are the options. But it turns out there are options between those things. I don't think I would ever have figured that out if I hadn't just done it and then found out, because there was a point between those two options. Which is really frustrating, because then you can't, like, there's no way to sort of zap into somebody's brain and be like, it's going to be okay. Even if it fails, it's going to be fine. I promise. And they'll be like, right, okay then. It doesn't work. So yeah, it is a shame, but yeah, it's a long, slow process. But there is another side, if you will.
Right at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
Yeah,
I do remember that my first couple like real jobs, I had like panic attacks for like the first weeks at those jobs, and they were it was like my first job, so it was part-time and it was just retail. I was working at like a small store display store, and like it really wasn't that hard. It was mostly like a cashier. I would help wrap things up. And it just, I don't know why it terrified me so much. It was just like, I didn't have much to do. There were no customers and I was just like breathing heavy at the cash register, like freaking out for no reason. And like, after a couple of weeks, it just goes away and you're like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. So it's really just like taking the dive and kind of like working through the emotions, I guess, and just finding out that it's not as bad as you think.
Yeah, and even if it is as bad as you think, you can still cope with it. Yeah. I literally have, actually, let me bring, I have a list of like coping statements.
Oh, really?
Because I am that level of crazy that I have to have coping statements on. Let me find, because one of them is basically, this is horrendous, but I'm going to survive anyway. I can be anxious and still deal with the situation. It's a good one. I like that one, I have to say. It is useful, because I think for me, like trying to be like, I'm not anxious is just nonsense. Whereas being like, yes, I am absolutely terrified, and this could all go horrifically wrong, but I'll just figure it out if that happens. Like, it's gonna be okay, because I know that I have some kind of brain power to be able to actually figure it out if it does all go horrendously wrong. Yeah, that was definitely helpful for me.
I've been to therapy, and like I've been taught like a couple different coping things, but the thing is, like, in the moment they're hard to remember sometimes because you're just so freaking out and like in that cycle that you forget. But one of the things they kind of taught me was that to think about like all the options, even like, and if it's hard, think about the most like unlikely ones first. Like if you're afraid to, like, let's say, go to the doctor, and like just you're afraid he'll mess something up, then like then like think about other things that could happen. Like you go to the doctor and he's an alien or something like that. He's gonna like dissect your brain. And then think about like you're going to the doctor and he's like a secret government agent and he's gonna recruit you into his like little like task force or something. And then from there you could go to like a little more like reasonable things. Like you go to the doctor, he might pinch you a bit, but it's fine. And then like you just get into more like reasonable territory, and then you find out all these like spectrum of things that could happen, and you're like, oh, okay, so like anything could really happen, and it doesn't have to be just the bad thing.
Yeah, that's a really good advice, actually. That is a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, it's fun to think of the weird things first. So.
But yeah, that's true. Like in the moment, it is really difficult to even remember what those like coping mechanisms are. I actually, again, on my Notion board of basically you're crazy, here's how to survive with it, I have a whole set of things which is like things to do when you're triggered. It's just entirely things that are to stop my brain just blowing up, basically. And it's just like breathe, go for a walk, do anything, do yoga, put music on, dance, like get it out of your physical body, get the actual adrenaline in that out of your body, so that your brain comes back online, basically. Because that is the challenge. That is always the challenge, isn't it? It's just like, yeah, I have all these amazing skills and coping strategies, but I do not remember to use them.
Oh yeah, for sure, me too. Yeah, and one thing that keeps coming up, like speaking of what you were saying, like to get it out of your body, like everybody keeps telling me to work out. And I mean, like I did do it for a little bit, but it's so hard to get into it, especially like since we were inside for so long. And like I was sedentary for so long. I sat in like the same spot for like 2 months. And yeah, apparently it really, I mean, I did notice it did help like when I was like doing the gym and stuff, because when I was in college we had a gym at our college, so it was like easy to go to, and my friend would go, so I would just tag along. And I feel like it does kind of like get the nerves out, and like, you know, it tires not all of you out, but like a part of you out, so that it doesn't keep chattering as you do the stuff that you want to do. But yeah, apparently being healthy is really important, and you realize that more as you go on in life.
Yeah, it's true. I never used to be like a sporty person at all. And I didn't used to find actually that like exercise helped me with like depression, anxiety, like anything I was dealing with. And I think a lot of it was because my mindset was wrong.
Oh,
because I kind of have a mindset that's like that I used to have a mindset that was like, if I'm working out, I have to burn X calories. I have to get rate to this point. I have like the aim is to quote get fit.
Right.
And it wasn't like that. That was it. That was the only reason I could think of to do exercise. It made me feel worse because either I was so exhausted already just from depression, that I couldn't do it, or my anxiety was so bad that I was like, I'm not doing enough. I've not done enough for it to be for it to work. And when I started doing yoga, the first time I started doing yoga, I came at it with the same sort of attitude, and I hated it, and I gave up. And when I restarted doing yoga, I was like, it's not exercise. It's just self-care. I'm just checking in with my body. That's it. That's all it is. And I love it. And I have done it like every single day, apart from like maybe 7 days in the past 2 years.
Nice.
And I think for me, that was the difference, was like, it's not about quote achieving anything. It's just, this is my time to like check in with my body, and figure out what it needs and give it that. So yeah, I think it's so like mental health and mental illness is just so complex, and it's which kind of comes back to we need people who can create art that demonstrate how complex it is, because it's so hard to say like, you can't give generic advice about it, you know, because you can say, oh yeah, well, exercise is great for mental health. Well, yeah, it is most of the time. If you're in a mindset where you're like, I have to exercise this many times a day, or I have to achieve this specific thing or whatever, that's not helping.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's so individual, which is frustrating.
It really is.
You just have to figure it out on your own.
That's really interesting, because I didn't really think about mindset going into it. Because like for me, it was just like going to the gym with a friend, so it was like, you know, a fun thing. And like she would laugh at me struggling to do a pull-up and stuff like that. So, you know, it was just kind of like no pressure kind of thing. And it's funny to think of you like going at yoga like Bruce Lee or something, like trying to like intensely go at yoga. But mindset really does make a difference. And I think one thing I've noticed about myself just in general is like my physical self isn't something I've really been too self-conscious about. And I think that's why it's been easy to like just go to the gym and not like be like, oh, I gotta get abs in like 2 weeks or something like that. But the things that like I've been self-conscious about are like my success, my artwork, my like, you know, just my space in life and stuff like that. So that's the kind of stuff that I go at with a not healthy mindset, the stuff that matters to me. So then that's like where the coping mechanisms should kick in, but always forget to get at them. And yeah, just all that, all the stuff we talked about. Yeah.
No, it is complicated. It is, but I mean, it sounds like you are doing all the right things.
I'm trying.
So it has been so lovely to chat to you. We have really not talked about social media. We've just talked about like mental health stuff and like with your life. Relatable content. Yeah. So if people have some interesting work ideas for you, or they would like to see your fabulous art, where can they find you?
All right, they can find me on Instagram at Nia Pasumbal, NIAPASUMBAL, and that's just basically my name. And Yeah, I'm also on Facebook, but I don't really go there as much. But so Instagram's really the place to find me, and like my email's there and everything. So yep, that's where I am.
Very good. I will put the links in the show notes, of course. And thank you very, very much for being here.
Oh, it was nice talking to you.
If you want more regular reminders to find your own way to use social media, follow Alexis on your social platform of choice. All the links will be in the show notes. Until next time, be a human.